everyone, Mags Karn here, author of the best-selling ebook, The Tell, a Memoir, blogging with the byline, No More Silence, No More Shame. So The Tell is my family's true story about child sexual abuse, and in our case specifically, sibling incest. In 2010, we learned from our daughter Evie that this was a secret she had been keeping. Back then, we knew absolutely no one else who had experienced anything like this, but since then we have learned that we are not alone. In fact, the number of families that we personally know who are touched by child sexual abuse is staggering. Yet most of us have kept our stories secret because of the stigma. Well, my family is done with the secrecy and the indignity, the embarrassment and the humiliation that so often go along with surviving sex crimes. We have decided to talk about child sexual abuse a lot, to get it out in the open and to remove the stigma. No more silence, no more shame. Today's guest blogger is very close to my heart. She is my sister, Em. And while she played a hugely supportive role in my family's story, I am so humbled and so very appreciative that she has agreed to share her own family story. Em?
Hi everybody, this is Em. If you found this blog, it probably was not accidental. If you're looking for resources, understanding, help, what I want you to know is that you're not alone. No more silence, no more shame means so much to me on so many levels. As part of Mag's core group of friends and family, I saw and lived the shatter effect of incest on the family structure. There were no resources to refer to, no agencies to confer with, no organization that could help or even truly understand how tangled the web was of wanting to protect at all costs the victim and still loving but being unable to allow even minimal communication to continue with the perpetrator, even knowing that he had suffered previously as a victim himself. Local law enforcement was bound by lacking knowledge and protocol in the situation. The courthouse seemed to run on a good old boys network where the ultimate goal of family court was to keep the family together, even if family was perpetrating sexual crimes within the family. Mag struggled internally and externally with the personal, social, and legal issues surrounding having sexual crimes perpetrated within her own home. I have never seen more tears shed than in the year following her daughter's decision to end her silence about her victimization by her brother. And though I pride myself on being a good listener and problem solver, I have never in my life felt more helpless, until it happened to our family as well. I'm happily remarried following divorce from my first husband about 10 years ago. He and I share custody of our 3 children. They are with their dad every other weekend and one evening during the week when they have dinner together. Their dad is remarried as well and living with his wife and her 2 teenage sons. My daughter, as a preteen, had told me about some incidents at her dad's house where her undergarments had gone missing. She suspected her stepbrother and was uncomfortable. I heard her, I truly heard her, and being a worrier anyway, advised her that she needed to keep close tabs on her comfort level and keep me updated. The next update I got came a week or so later in the form of a frantic 2 a.m. phone call from my daughter stating that her dad didn't want her to call me, but she needed to come home, now. I don't even think I asked one question. I knew from the time and the tone of the call that it was an emergency, not just a kid missing mom on her weekend with dad. I flew to his house and picked her up amid a chaotic scene. I phoned the police and asked to have an officer come out the next morning when my daughter shared that after going to bed that night, she awoke to her stepbrother peeling back her covers and holding his camera out while touching her private area. When she tried to get away from him, he physically prevented her from leaving. She felt unsafe and scared and very confused. Her dad did not want her to call me or anyone, wanting to keep it from getting out to anyone else. He did not protect his daughter. He tried to shove the situation under a rug and in the process shamed her and made her feel like he did not believe that what had happened had actually happened. I thought I could help her just by being there. I thought that together we could get through it. I was wrong. I needed help. She needed help. She was suffering emotionally and quickly changed from a kind, generous, funny, silly young lady to a moody, irritated, angry, emotional recluse. The night she ran away from home and hid in the woods was the night I started contacting counselors. She saw a counselor several times a week at first, always getting homework of sorts, including creating a me book, which in the end was what reminded my daughter of all the things that made her her. It started with baby pictures, and gradually she added academic achievements, sports awards, cards from friends and family, comic strips she had seen hanging on her wall. The counselor started small and very far back in time, far away from the incident. It allowed my daughter to talk to herself with tangible reminders of how awesome she truly was. This counselor, the Me book, and being entrusted with the diary and journal of her cousin, whose story was chronicled in The Tell, a memoir, were her lifeline back to good. These things and people reminded her that she was someone before this incident happened, and she was still that person. No one could take any of that away from her. At some point during the many months of her counseling, we saw our court date arrive. The perpetrator was there. My daughter and I were there with an attorney friend whom had suffered incestuous abuse as a child herself and had an understanding of the gravity of the situation. My ex-husband and his wife were there, sitting with her son, the boy who stole my daughter's innocence. My daughter's dad was sitting with the perpetrator rather than his own daughter. The judge took each kid individually back into chambers while the parents and attorneys sat behind one-way glass and watched, listened. My daughter bravely explained what happened to her. No more silence. And after that, the judge questioned the boy. He admitted to doing what he did and added that he had been viewing pornography on the family computer in the kitchen in direct view of my daughter's open bedroom door. The judge admonished his behavior and told him to stay away from my daughter. The issues belonged to the stepbrother only. They were not hers. No more shame. It has been a few years now since the incident. My daughter has moved past the incident and never brings it up anymore. She's more cautious and knowing than she was at the time, but perhaps that's just a function of growing up rather than being the victim of sexual abuse. She was molded a bit by the experience, but it has not defined her nor held her back. She is still my little girl and is a lovely young lady. She's driven and independent. She loves babies and animals and sports. She has even found herself crushing on a boy at school, something so innocent and normal, yet something I wasn't sure would happen after the incident. She studies hard and makes good grades. Life is a competition to her, and she likes to win. She played on the high school varsity team last year when she was just a middle schooler and was one of the top varsity players in the county, scoring lots of playtime as a starter. She does not hate the perpetrator of the crime. She doesn't think much of him at all, in fact. She is no longer a victim. She is no longer silent. She is past the shame. Thank you for listening to our story. It was interesting for me to revisit the story we lived for so long and to remember how traumatic it was and how upside down our lives were for a while. It's amazing to see how people can survive the trauma with the right help and support. I think first and foremost, it's important to simply be heard and believed. Obviously, sexual abuse happens and happens close to home, within our families and neighborhoods, to our friends and loved ones, to people we work with, to our children. Thankfully, victims can recover and stop being victims. And the more we talk about it, the more we remove the taboo or stigma from the victim and place it squarely where it belongs. Remember that you're not alone. Others have suffered before you. We believe you. We know it seems an insurmountable trauma now. We also know you can recover and heal and go on to live again. No more silence. No more shame.
Oh, that was beautifully told.
Thank you.
Thank you, Em. Love you.
Love you.